legal stories that we're keeping a close watch on. The first case from just this morning, we told you earlier, Chris Brown is in trouble again. The singer and his bodyguard have been arrested and charged with felony assault for beating up, allegedly, another man outside the W Hotel in Washington, D.C. The other case is the Macneill murder trial out of Utah. Dr. Macneill is accused of murdering his wife, Michelle Macneill, back in 2007. And last week, his mistress on the right there, Gypsy Willis, was on the stand. And she revealed some very salacious details of their relationship. So let's talk about these two cases. Here with me in studio, attorneys Carrie Hackett and Tanya Miller. All right, let's talk about Chris Brown first. And oh my goodness, I mean, everyone kind of knows about the history involving Rihanna and being on probation, and now something like this happening after a party that he threw in Washington.
Yes.
This doesn't look good.
This does not look good.
No matter what the outcome of the allegation, right, Tanya?
Because he's on felony probation in California, and because he is under sentence, he is being supervised and watched. He has conditions he must comply with. He cannot get involved in anything like this. And the mere fact that it's alleged, it doesn't have to be proved beyond a reasonable doubt, could be enough to have his probation revoked.
So, Carrie, the discretion is on the probation officer, or who makes this determination?
It's complicated. Ultimately, it's the judge, but the probation officer does weigh in with their opinion, essentially, on whether the probation should be pulled or not. But in a case like this, where he knows that if he gets into any kind of trouble, when you get on probation, the judge, the probation officer, they tell you exactly what you can do and what you cannot do in order to get in even deeper trouble with the probation. So they've told him, look, if you receive any new charge, regardless of the outcome, regardless of whether you're convicted, found adjudicated not guilty, that could still be trouble for you. So he should know better, and he should have people handling this for him.
And so this comes after some other kind of hit and run incident earlier in the year.
That's right.
How did that ultimately impact his probation? Did that kind of, you know, was that kind of swept under the rug, no problem, and move on?
Kind of. I mean, the prosecutors brought a petition basically saying, look, he should be violated for this hit and run. Ultimately, they negotiated a resolution, his attorneys with the prosecutor, and just added some more, I think it was community service hours on there.
1,000 hours of community service, and that's a big deal.
Right, but he didn't get any jail time. So it was kind of a slap on the wrist, but still, I mean, this is number 2 for him.
Oh my gosh, and as far as we know, at least this morning, he was still being held, and his release is contingent upon what?
He could at this point,
the judge.
A first court appearance and all that?
That's right.
That's right. And he could at this point even have a probation warrant issued for, I don't think it has been yet, but the probation officer in California could issue a warrant for him, which would require him to be held as well.
But he'll certainly be held through tomorrow.
Oh my goodness. Okay, let's talk about the other case, this one unfolding in a Utah court, and this involves everything from the alleged mistress to, you know, the alleged murderer to a family just simply falling apart. We saw some powerful testimony of one of the daughters, Rachel Macneill, who was inconsolable on the stand, talking about when she learned that her dad had a mistress not long after the death of her mother. How powerful is that testimony? Not because of what she said, but even just her behavior, you know, her physical appearance on the stand. How influential is that?
I think it's going to be very powerful. I think that is a problem for the doctor, because this is his own daughter, and his own daughter is saying, essentially, she believes that her father killed her mother. That's powerful evidence for a jury. I think that's problematic.
I agree, and I think it's even more powerful because she testified to the very close relationship that she had with her father growing up. She said on the stand that she was closer to her father than her mother, and that it was just that they were best friends, that it was just these actions that he'd taken after her mother's death, joking about being a single man immediately after her mother died, that led her to feel some discomfort and believe that he could be the one that perpetrated this act.
And then Gypsy Miller actually took the stand too, talked about, you know, when they met, how they would meet, etc., how frequently. But I guess what's upcoming and has a lot of people at the edge of their seat is whether the then 6-year-old daughter, who actually discovered the mother's body, Michelle, whether she will, now 12 years old, take the stand, and if so, what kind of testimony would she deliver? What's the expectation, Carrie?
Well, I think at this point, the judge has decided that at least her testimony, her prior statements to a counselor are going to come in. And that's when she described seeing her mother, Michelle's body in the tub, and kind of outlined how she saw her there with her face facing up and her body in the tub and her eyes open. So that should come in, and I think the
And
judge
with
has also
clothes
said,
on.
right, with clothes on, and I think the judge also said that she could be cross-examined by the prosecutor. So that's what we know now.
All right. Last word on that?
Yeah, I think that the prosecution lost that battle because, as we know, the defense tried to exclude her testimony altogether. The prosecutor only gets to play the tape. The child doesn't get to testify because she's been tainted by the sisters. So I think that was a lost battle for the prosecution, but we'll see how that cross-examination turns out.
All right, very good. We'll be watching both cases all week long, starting with, of course, tomorrow. Tanya and Carrie, thanks.